there! I'm here at Martin Luther King Jr. Park, formerly known as Lakewood Park, in Statesville, North Carolina. We renamed it to memorialize the hero, Martin Luther King Jr. Family, friends, and kids can all come here and be inspired by what Martin Luther King Jr. did to change America and make it a place where justice and freedom prevail. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of my favorite heroes. He was a pivotal leader during the Civil Rights Movement in America. He made the famous I Have a Dream speech during the March on Washington in 1963. During that speech, he said one of my favorite lines that still holds true to this day. I have a dream that our nation can live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. He wanted a world in an America where whites, blacks, Hispanics, and Asians can all sit down at the table of brotherhood in unity. The reason why I chose Martin Luther King Jr. as my inspirational leader is because of the way that he sought to make a difference. Instead of dividing the nation, he brought together the blacks and the whites and educated them. He did not fight, kill, harm, or riot, but instead uncovered the truth of injustice. It's easy to get behind such a leader, one that is inspiring, educated, and inspirational. He sought to make a paradigm change, one that supported all people of America, not just the majority Caucasian race. He motivated the crowds to fight for what was right and just, and he saw a nation that was unified as one. This is why MLK is my hero, and I seek to embody his leadership style. Relating MLK's strategies back to present day, we can use his leadership style to address the alarming statistics involved in the school-to-prison pipeline. For example, black students are expelled 3 times more than their white peers. Also, in 84 school districts across the South, 100% of students who were expelled or suspended were African American. African American students are not inherently more likely to commit a bad behavior that warrants a suspension. So, there must be something wrong with our institutional school systems. Thus, I am seeking an institutional paradigm change, just like MLK did during the Civil Rights era, one in which we address discipline and suspensions in a more positive light and restorative manner. Students are funneled from the school system to a life of crime. These students may experience neglect, poverty, or abuse at home, and then they're suspended at school using out-of-school suspension. Out-of-school suspension takes them out of the classroom into their homes where they're not learning. Current zero-tolerance policies at schools criminalize students for small infractions. Also, there's a large presence of cops at schools. This makes teachers go to them as more of a first response rather than a last resort. This is therefore criminalizing students for things that should probably be dealt with by the school and instead are dealt with by law enforcement. Do we think these practices are really benefiting those who already experience hardship? What may be a better solution? I seek a solution of restorative justice, one in which students learn from their mistakes. Educational institutions need to learn to understand students' points of view and make sure that they're teaching them the appropriate coping mechanisms. I think it's one thing to actually suspend a student, but then it's another and a way better practice to actually teach them the way to deal with other people whom they may not get along with. Restorative justice allows those students to maybe meet with those other peers that they may not get along with, or the teacher, and make amends, and they have a chance at redemption. One way to make sure that this happens is that we teach teachers and administration about implicit racism. Implicit racism is maybe a time during our lives when we are not aware of the fact that we are being racist, that a law or a practice is racist in nature. So we as teachers need to make sure that we provide a nurturing environment that's supportive of the diversity of our students, to make sure that we are responding to genders, religion, race, people of color, wherever and whatever, the same way. This will bring about a more nurturing environment that's conducive to lower rates of suspension and lower rates of racial bias suspensions. I believe if we make these changes, just similar to how MLK wanted to unite and educate those during the Civil Rights Movement, if we unite and educate our teachers and administrators to fight against the school-to-prison pipeline and the statistics behind it, and teach teachers about implicit racism and how we may not know that we're actually judging people based off the color of the skin or their gender, and use this education to hopefully change our institutions.